Can I jump?
Which?
I was waiting for it to jump. Because usually when I go to get the pop-out chat, it jumps. And then I end up hitting the intro video instead.
Oh. What the hell, the desk moved.
Who this? Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
How was you tonight? Oh, chat. Hey, Patrick.
How you doing, Patrick?
How are you? What? Why are you looking at me like that? Did that sound weird? There's Sid, Ron Moonin. That's good. I like that you're here. You're doing good. There we go. How is everybody?
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Scott. No problem. Huh?
I said, that's all right.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Hope everybody's doing well.
Boy, I'm glad Nicole specified that.
Are you sure it's a real one? That's hilarious.
Our cameras ain't up.
I know they're not.
Oh.
So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Today is True Crime Tuesdays, where we, of course, discuss true crime, missing 411 cases, and unsolved murders. Today we're talking a couple of murders that went on. One is near and dear to my heart. It was right by my house. Oh, God, Nicole. Oh, Lord. What is going on over there?
Getting a copyright strike.
So today we're talking about Tammy Jo Alexander. For the longest time, she was the Caledonia Jane Doe. And then she became the Kelly Doe. And then we're going to talk about the murder of Dorothy Jane Scott. And then Georgette Bordeaux. Hopefully I said that right. Without further ado, let me go ahead and get the intro going.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.
There we go.
Yeah, Patrick, stay safe tonight, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. Let me switch that over there. Thank you, Scott. I used to be afraid to play it because I'd get copyright claims, and now I don't care because I get copyright claims every day. So what are you going to do? So yeah, today, like I said, we're going to be talking about missing persons and some murder cases. Now, even though Tammy Jo Anderson, there was a confession, doesn't mean that it was a real one. And yet, as I tell the story, that's right. Hello, Zach.
Hey, Zach.
So good to see you too, honey. That's okay. I know you got some you got some moving and grooving going on. I know, hon. I know you're busy this time of year. It's no worries. But I thank you for coming in and saying hi. I appreciate that. Fam love, you know it. You know it. Be safe out there, Zach. Don't work too hard. But like I was saying, as I read the story, you'll understand why they the serial killer claimed to over 200 murders, and they got far-fetched, and they don't think he murdered 200 people. So like I said, the first one is the confession killer claimed he killed 600 women. Oh, my bad. That's
a lot of women.
Yeah, he killed 600 women. And they're like, was Tammy Jo Alexander one of them? Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, this was near and dear to my heart. This happened right near my house in 1979. You're welcome, sweetie. So on November 10th, 1979, a farmer discovered the body of a teenage girl in a cornfield in Caledonia, New York. Found with a gunshot wound to the head and another injury in her back, the victim had been stripped of identification, but her clothing remained undisturbed. 4 years later, a man named Henry Lee Lucas was arrested in Texas. A suspect in a local murder case, Lucas eventually confessed to killing Alexander as well. But after confessing to one murder, Lucas confessed to another, and to another, and then to another. And before long, the Texas Ranger had cleared more than 200 cases based on the serial killer's confession. As Lucas' confessions became more far-fetched, police became less confident that he was responsible for most of his alleged crimes, including the murder of Alexander. While Tammy Jo Alexander was indeed dead, though she wasn't identified until 2015. She was murdered in 1979 and was not found out who she was until 2015.
It's a long gap.
Yeah.
Hey, Brett.
Hey, Brett. I was 4.
I was 9.
Right?
No.
No, I wasn't 4.
You were 7.
I was 7, yeah. My bad. And I should have known that because Danielle messaged me today, right? And she's like, I need help. I have to ask you a question. I'm like, okay. She goes, it's for school. I said, well, I'll try to answer. And she asked me the question, and then she's like, and how old are you? I'm like, 46. She goes, haha, Dad's older than you. I'm like, I know. But anyway.
We should have known you're 2 years younger than I am.
I know. So while Tammy Jo Alexander was indeed dead, that's right, always. He's always robbing the cradle. So, while Henry Lee Lucas was indeed guilty of at least some murders, a lingering question plagued police. Who really killed her? And I'll go ahead and share her picture. And I remember seeing this picture forever and a day. That's what she looked like. This is what she was wearing. She had a keychain and a necklace. But we didn't have that picture for a long time, obviously. We had this one. Let me get back up there now. Tammy Jo Alexander had an unhappy childhood, split among foster homes, her grandmother's place, and a life with a deeply troubled mother in her hometown of Brooksville, Florida. According to the New York Daily News, Alexander was an experienced hitchhiker by the time she was just 15 years old. While waitressing at a truck stop at cafe, she often caught rides with long-haul truckers. People were just drawn to her, said her high school friend Laurel Noel, remembering her bubbly personality and smile.
Hi, Orion Grace.
Hey, Orion Grace. How are you?
Patrick says he remembers seeing that on the news.
Really, Patrick? Yeah. In 1978, Noel and Alexander briefly ran away together. The 15-year-olds managed to hitchhike all the way to Los Angeles, but ultimately, Noel's parents ended up flying both the teens back home. Noel learned that Alexander's sister, Pamela Dyson, that Alexander had taken off yet again in 1979. Only this time, she would never return. Dyson believed that Alexander ran away to escape a bad home life. She said, "My mother put Joan Crawford to shame," Dyson later said, describing her mom as a screamer and a slapper. According to Alexander's high school boyfriend, she left Brookville for good in the spring of 1979. This was just a few months before she would be found dead at age 16. This was left to rot in a cornfield more than 1,000 miles away from home. The discovery of the girl in the cornfield in November of 1979, the body of a young woman was discovered in Caledonia, New York, which is about 23 miles southwest of Rochester. She was found wearing a plaid shirt, tan corduroy jeans, and a red windbreaker with a colored label that read Auto Sports Products Incorporated. She had been murdered with a .38 caliber weapon. After being shot once in the head, she was apparently dragged into the cornfield from the road and then shot again in the back. But since there's no form of identification, detectives struggled to find out who she was. For years, she's known as the Caledonia Jane Doe, and then just the Cali Doe, as authorities continue to investigate her case. Her corpse did offer a few clues for police, though. From her bikini tan lines, authorities could tell that she traveled to a brisk autumnal New York from a warm climate elsewhere. They examined pollen on her body to determine she'd likely grown up in a place like Southern California or Florida. However, since the keychains on her belt loop were sold in New York Thruway rest stops, it was clear that she had recently been traveling in the local region. Oh, wow, Patrick. When police searched the area, they learned that the mysterious girl had apparently stopped for dinner at about 8:30 p.m. the previous night in nearby Lima. She enjoyed a simple meal of ham, potatoes, and corn, and her dining companion was an unidentified man. The potential person of interest was described as a white male who was about 5'8" or 5'9" with curly hair and glasses. And this is the sketch they drew of him. Marge Bradford, who had been her waitress that night, wondered out loud, why would you buy somebody dinner and then kill them 45 minutes later and throw them in a cornfield? Police wondered the same thing, and they were hoping to find the perpetrator responsible for this horrific crime. But for at least 35 years, little else was discovered about Kelly Doe. Oh, wow, that's wild, Patrick. Yeah, she was all over the place because they didn't know where she came from. You know what I mean? They didn't know who she was. The victim was finally identified as Tammy Jo Alexander in 2015. One police confirmed the victim's identity with a DNA test. Their next goal was to figure out who murdered her in the first place.
That was like right in your backyard.
That was in my backyard, and I'm going to show the map how it. Yeah, while confirmed serial killer Henry Lee Lucas confessed to her murder in 1984, cops had a very good reason to doubt his claim. This is him. I mean, put glasses on him. He does look like the guy that she had that was in the sketch. Well, there's no question that Henry Lee Lucas was a murderer. He even killed his own mother back in 1960. It remains unclear what his true body count was due to the unreliable nature of his confessions. Following his 1983 arrest, Lucas claimed that he killed more than 600 people with his partner in crime, Otis Toole. At first, many of Lucas's confessions seemed credible, especially since he seemed to know specific details about the cases that no one else would. Eventually, however, the confessions became too good to be true. Police began to theorize that Lucas hadn't been the one behind all the murders he claimed. Perhaps he was simply trying to make a name for himself.
But he might have had a friend that was a cop on the inside.
That's true. That's true. That makes sense, Patrick. Yeah. Because we're right there at the border. Well, I mean, not right there at the border, but it all began to unravel when cops noticed the little details Lucas offered up could be found in crime scene photos shown to him during investigations. Authorities began to pick apart his claims and came to a horrifying conclusion. Despite the fact that the Texas Rangers had cleared 213 unsolved cases based on his confessions, more evidence began to suggest that Lucas hadn't committed many of his alleged crimes. Based on factors like mileage on his car and reliable source explaining his true whereabouts, investigators had to disregard hundreds of his confessions. I mean, that's crazy to me. I mean, I could understand people wanting to make a name for themselves in that way, but...
Well, I don't know. I can understand them trying to make a name for themselves in that way, but...
Well, yeah, I can't understand it, but there are people that do, you know. To make matters worse, it was later revealed that some of the members of the task force assigned to Lucas had secretly provided him with evidence and asked him leading questions.
Huh. What did I say?
Right? Today, it's generally accepted that he committed far less than 600 murders, although experts are still unable to pin down the exact number. For what it's worth, one district attorney who prosecuted Lucas said he believed the killer had murdered anywhere from 3 people to a dozen. So we may never know who killed Tammy Jo Alexander. The case remains unsolved to this day. While Henry Lee Lucas did claim responsibility for killing, there is no way for police to confirm whether it was true or not. FBI and RC. Yeah. It was a big deal. It was a huge deal, yeah. To this day, the only evidence linking him to the crime was the confession, which was later determined not to be credible. And of course, the same could be said for dozens of other murders he supposedly committed. However, it's worth noting that the man who had seen dining with Alexander shortly before his death did bear a vague resemblance to Lucas. Hypothetically, it could have been him in disguise with glasses, but it could have also just been someone who looked somewhat like him. One former sheriff who investigated the case thinks her murder may have possibly been a sadistic spree killer, Christopher Wilder, who abducted and raped a dozen women and murdered 8. Since Wilder was a race car driver, many people with his hobby were known to purchase auto sports products, the same brand found in the jacket that Alexander was wearing when she died. However, Wilder was fatally shot while fighting with a police officer in 1984, so he died before he could ever be questioned about the kill he done.
Hi,
Hey, Heather! In 2016, DNA samples from 3 different men were tested against a male genetic sample found on Tammy Jo's clothing. Though all the men had known Alexander and were considered persons of interest, the sample on the clothing didn't match any. And investigators still receive thousands of tips on the case, with no clear answer yet about who murdered the teenage hitchhiker all those years ago. However, Alexander's sister still holds out hope that the real killer might be brought to justice someday. She said, somebody has to know something, and in my personal opinion, we haven't reached the right person that has the piece of information that will lead the case to the case being solved. But she added, I always have hope and will never give up to the day I die, hoping they find who killed her. Now, I'll show you how close I was to this case. And I'll also show you how the whole incident with Robin went down. So, this is the trailer park where I lived. Okay, I'll back it up a little bit. I mean, as you can see, this is the first farm I worked on. But yeah, so where they found her. Now, my trailer was this trailer right here. That's where I grew up. Where they found her was over here in this area. So, I mean, it was nothing for us kids. I mean, this used to be all cow pasture, and then you had the cornfield here. But it was nothing for us kids to be running around that cow pasture, because there's a creek there that we would go swim in and everything else. But that's where she was found. Now, mind you, the story that some of you have heard before is my best friend Robin. We were watching Unsolved Mysteries. 2:00 in the morning, we're at my house, which again, like I said, is right here. 2:00 in the morning, we were watching that. Got freaked ourselves out. We were both, she's 14, I was 16, around those ages.
Yeah, something like that.
So we freaked each other out, thinking that there was a killer out, in our trailer park somewhere. So 3:00, now she lived over here at this trailer right here. Okay. Now, mind you, when it snowed there, we got a lot of snow. Not Valdez, not as much as Valdez does. But we got a lot of snow where they used backhoes or skid loaders to move the snow. Okay. And so it had snowed that night. She was walking home, going from here, like I said, from here down to here, and she went to cross. She was going to go around because her driveway's here. She was going to go around, but there was a guy standing right in this area. Hey, stop moving. Around in this area. And when he saw her, he told her, don't slip. Well, that made her, that scared the shit out of her, of course. And she ran through the yard that was high waist in snow. Or wait, not high waist high in snow. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. It was high waist high in snow. So she's running through the yard. She called me when she got home. She was scared shitless. 3:00 in the morning, some dude out there smoking a cigarette telling her not to slip or don't fall. That was freaky. Matter of fact, I'll show you guys something special. Oh, there I am. So, like I said, I grew up here, right? These two trees right here is what my dad planted when we first moved in there. They look like they're up over the trailer now. Isn't that wild? My dad planted those trees. Man, it brings back memories of looking at that. I was looking at it this morning. But, yeah, that's where she was murdered. Or, well, dumped, yeah. I remember we had to stay in the house. We had just moved. Well, it had been 2 years we had been there when that happened. Because we lived on Canisius Lake up until I was 5. And they wanted me to go to York School. So, I mean, it was crazy. I don't remember too much from it, just learning. I mean, it was always in the house. Matter of fact, I told you about Officer Richlicky, how my aunt used to babysit him and his sister. He was one of the main investigators of that case. And like when I say I know a lot of cops and in the family, he's one of them, him and his wife. But yeah, it was definitely crazy times. And it was scary going out there as we got older, because we'd play in the cornfields, we'd play in the cow pasture, it's what we did as kids. On the other side of the road, there was an alfalfa, and that was so good for hide and seek.
Cow patties.
No, not cow patties, the alfalfa.
Damn rocks.
Huh?
Cows pissing on flat rocks.
Yeah, no shit.
Oh, you did when that bull came after you.
Man, yeah. That was, I don't know how, to this day, I still don't know how. The what? Alfalfa fields? Alfalfa. They were the best to hide in, though. They were the best. Walk right by and you couldn't see anybody. Oh, thank you, Heather. But yeah, it was definitely everybody knew about her growing up. Everybody knew about her. And it was such a relief, though, when thank you for the ice cream. It was so nice when they finally found out who she was.
Give her a name.
Because like I said, for the longest time, she was the Caledonia Jane Doe. Nobody knew who she was. And then to hear that she had a sister and, from hey, Eli.
What's up, Eli?
From her DNA, they found out who she was. And I'm just thankful of that. And now, hopefully, they'll find, through some way, probably not, but hopefully they'll find her killer. Yeah, exactly, Nicole. She finally has a name. So the second story I have is the unsolved murder of Dorothy Jane Scott. What makes this story weird is soon after her disappearance, Dorothy's family began receiving chilling calls from my identified caller. More coffee, Missy. More coffee.
That might be it. You might have too much in you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Heather. No, don't apologize that you came in late. You didn't come in late. When you get here, is when you get here. It happened in 1979, Heather. So, so this is what it says. When I get you alone, I will cut you into bits so no one ever finds you, the man's voice said on the phone. It wasn't the first such call that Dorothy Jane Scott had received from the unidentified caller. Someone whose voice she seemed to recognize but couldn't quite place. But it was perhaps the most unsettling and tragically amongst the most prophetic. Since early in 1980, Scott, a single mother with a 4-year-old son named Sean, had been receiving the threatening calls of her aunt's home in Stanton, California, where she and Sean lived. You're welcome, Heather. At times, the caller was fawning, professing his love for Scott, and making romantic overtures. Otherwise, he was vile and threatening, saying that he was going to harm her in unspeakable ways. In both modes, the caller made it clear that he was watching Scott, recounting details of her day-to-day life. In one instance, telling her to go outside because he had something for her. When she went to her car, she found a single dead rose placed upon her windshield.
True.
No, I didn't, Patrick. Hold on 1 second.
I missed it too. I don't know how.
Oh, I had a guy murdered here on my street a couple years ago, just 4 houses away from me.
Oh, damn.
Murders are very rare here. Wow. I couldn't imagine that, Patrick.
No, that would freak me out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, I mean, the panic you go through, like anybody you know, it's like that thing where anybody you know
could be the one.
Could be the killer.
Or be the one that gets killed.
Yeah. You all right over there?
Yes.
Just wondering, just making sure.
I'm trying to get comfy.
Oh, okay. The calls unsettled Scott and her family, but no one was quite sure what to do about them. They were so they went unreported. Then on the night of May 28th, 1980, Scott dropped off her son to her parents in Anaheim so she could attend a staff meeting where she worked. During the meeting, she noticed that one of her coworkers, Conrad Bostrom, didn't look well. She offered to take him to the hospital. He took her up on her offer, and another coworker, Pam Heed, accompanied them. On the way, Scott stopped off at her parents' house to check on her son, and while there, switched the black scarves she had been wearing for a red one. Oh, Patrick, that's scary.
Look at Nicole.
Huh?
Look at what Nicole just wrote.
Last year, a girl in my hometown was murdered for a Pokemon card. Wow. I'm telling you. That's crazy. That is crazy, Patrick.
Well, doesn't Pokemon stand for Pocket Monster?
Yeah. At the hospital, it was determined that Bostrom had been bitten by a black widow spider.
Easily distracted, hi.
Hey, easily distracted? How are you? He was treated while Scott had waited around until he was ready to go home. According to Heed, Scott never left her side during the evening. When Bostrom was released, Scott went to the hospital parking lot to get in her car while Heed and Bostrom waited to fill a prescription. When Scott didn't return right away, the two co-workers walked out in the parking lot. There they saw Scott's car speeding away, headlights blinding them so they couldn't see who was behind the wheel.
Hey, Mary.
Hey, Mary. Initially, Bostrom had assumed that some emergency had come up involving Scott's son, But when they still hadn't heard from her within a few hours, they reported her missing. At around 4:30 the following morning, Scott's car, a white Toyota station wagon, was found in the alley of Santa Ana, about 10 miles from the hospital. The car had been set ablaze, but no one was inside. It was only about a week later that Scott's mother, Vera, received the first phone call. "Are you related to Dorothy Scott?" the voice on the phone asked. When Vera said that she was, the caller simply added, "I got her," and then hung up. It was the first such call that Scott's parents received, but it wouldn't be the last. Though police installed a voice recorder at the residence, they were never able to trace the calls, as the caller never stayed on the line for more than a short time. Shortly after the mysterious calls began, Scott's father approached the Santa Ana registry, asking them to run a story about his missing daughter. The story ran on June 12, 1980, and the same day, Pat Ripley, the paper's editor, received an anonymous phone call from someone claiming to be Dorothy Scott's killer. "She was my love," the caller said. "I caught her cheating with another man. She denied having someone else. I killed her." So I wonder if in watching her, when she took her co-worker to the hospital, he thought that was her man.
An affair.
The caller provided details that hadn't been included in the newspaper story, such as the color of Scott's scarf and the fact that her co-worker had been treated for a black widow bite that evening. The caller also claimed that Scott had called him the night from the hospital, though Pam Haid insisted that Scott had never left her side that evening. As far as anyone in her life was aware, Dorothy Scott had no serious boyfriend at the time of her death. Still, police believed that the man who called the Santa Ana registry was probably the killer. During all this time Scott was missing, it was nearly 2 months later, on August 6, 1984, that construction workers would discover charred bones near Santa Ana Canyon Road. The bones included human and dog remains side by side. Authorities believed that they had been there for some time, as a brush fire had swept through the area in 1982, and likely explained the charred conditions of the bones. Though no cause of death was able to be established, a turquoise ring and a watch were both found with the remains, and the bones were identified as Scott's through dental records. Through the strange phone calls to the Scott's family stopped in April of 1984, they resumed after Scott's remains were found in August. In spite of the killer's taunting calls, however, Scott's murder remains unsolved to this day.
So basically the one that they thought was the killer obviously wasn't.
They really didn't have a thought of who the killer was. They couldn't get the read on the phone because he wouldn't stay on the phone that long.
Right. You got to be. He had to stay on for 30 seconds, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. But pretty messed up. Pretty messed up. It is.
I think I'm going to grab me soda, honey.
Okay, baby. The next one we have is the unsolved killing of Georgette Bordeaux. Her screams went unanswered, and her murder remains a mystery. It is sad, easily distracted. It's so sad on how many of these people have gotten murdered, and there is no resolve on who murdered them or what happened. I couldn't imagine having somebody murdered. My best friend's ex-husband's father was murdered on the side of the road, but they think that is a big controversy that I won't get into here because who knows who's watching. But Yeah, it's definitely weird. But I couldn't imagine going through all that. I really couldn't. So Georgette Bauerdorf. Hope I feel bad if I'm really like botching up that name. Her smile shines from an old photograph, offering a glimpse into the beautiful world of a young woman in the cusp of adulthood. But darkness lurks at the edge of the portrait. Yeah, the not knowing. Exactly, Heather. Yeah, it is weird, Patrick. It's funny how most of the murders are women. It is very weird. Sad that the whole thing these people have been through. Yeah. Nicole says a neighbor of my brother was stabbed to death by her ex, and the police knew it. He stalked her but didn't do anything. Her kids witnesses. Oh God. That, yeah. Oh. That's okay, Heather. Don't you love when they love to help like that? Who was a friend in high school, went missing, found murdered, ended up being adopted brother, an ex-boyfriend that killed her. Wow, easily distracted. Wow. That's messed up. And it's like what makes a person, I just don't understand it. I mean, I couldn't imagine, like, yes, we joke around that I stalked Eddie, but I couldn't imagine, like, him and there was girls he flirted with online before he knew that I was the love of his life. But it never made me mad to where I want to go find him and kill him. But do you know what I mean, though? I mean, they got out 5 years ago. Wow. He's still alive, so, But I just can't imagine snapping and thinking, it's like, I don't know. Right, there you go, Nicole. Just hurt him a tiny bit.
And I thought we were friends.
I can't understand it either for someone to even hurt another, let alone kill anyone. Yeah, exactly, Heather. Exactly. It happened in 83. Wow. They might not have enough evidence to charge him in court. They will not charge if they don't think they can get a right. Yeah. That's true. So, Georgette Bauerdorf was a young socialite with a grand future until 1944, when her life was cut short in the dead of night. The most unsettling part of the story, Georgette's murder remains unsolved over 70 years later. Born to an oil tycoon in New York City in 1924, Georgette lived a life of privilege. She and her older sister attended a convent school in Long Island, where they were trained in goodness and prosperity. Okay. When the girl's mother died in 1935, the Bordeaux siblings and their father moved to California, where Georgette was once again enrolled in a school that benefit her place in society. Alumni of the Westlake School for Girls in Los Angeles included Shirley Temple and Myrna Loy. Upon graduation in 1941, young Georgette moved to West Hollywood to pursue an acting career. By the age of 20, she found work at the Los Angeles Times in the Women's Services Bureau and in the Hollywood Canteen, a dining and dancing club that catered to young men in uniform. Georgette called Alpecia, her home, a grand Spanish-style house that played host to numerous celebrities. Her evenings were filled with nights out on the town. She was courted often and enjoyed the attention of her many suitors. Exactly what happened to her on the night of October 11th, 1944, remains a mystery. It was a Wednesday. Georgette was at the canteen, where her role as junior hostess meant she danced with and entertained the servicemen on a layover in Los Angeles. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary that night, and at the end of her shift, she climbed into her sister's Pontiac coupe and drove home. At 11 a.m. the following morning, Georgette's maid and janitor arrived to clear her apartment. They were met with an unlocked front door. Not to clear it, to clean it. Wow, my eyes are not focusing at all this morning. But they were met with an unlocked front door. The cleaners entered and found Georgette's lifeless body face down in her bathtub, the water still running. She was wearing a top part of a pajama set. Her hair floated in the water, and when police surveyed the scene, they found a little evidence of a struggle.
Hi, Misty Cat.
Hey, Misty Cat. Though the coroner later confirmed the bruises on Georgette's body suggested she put up a fight before her death. A partially unscrewed light bulb outside her front door led investigators to believe that her killer had hidden in the darkness, perhaps even entering the apartment before Georgette arrived, lying in waiting to make a move. Police assembled a rough timeline of Georgette's final movements. They believe she came home late, ate a snack in her kitchen, and then was killed by someone who may or may not have been a stranger. A downstairs neighbor heard screaming at about 2:30 a.m., along with shouts of, "Stop, you're killing me." The neighbor assumed it was a domestic dispute and returned to sleep. The janitor himself claimed he heard the sounds of high-heeled footsteps from Georgette's apartment and then a crash, as if something had been dropped. Yet he couldn't confirm if there had been a second person in her apartment. Whatever occurred, Georgette's last moments were certainly a desperate attempt to save her own life.
Didn't we watch something on TV about this?
Not that I'm aware of.
There must have been one that was kind of similar to it.
In the days following her murder, police received a letter from Sergeant Gordon Edison. Edison claimed that a woman matching Georgette's description gave him a lift through Hollywood on the night of October 11th. And in the letter, he described the woman as appearing quite nervous, though he would downplay his claim in later years. The killer, meanwhile, vanished into the night after the slaying, driving off in Georgette's car. The vehicle was found some distance away, abandoned and out of gas. It was the last trace of the killer in the case that quickly went cold. Here's the interesting parts. Georgette's Bordeaux body was shipped back to New York, where it was interred as a family-owned plot in Long Island Cemetery. While much has been written about the killing, little is concretely known. Some speculations associate Georgette's death with that of Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, claiming that the same man murdered the two Hollywood hopefuls. Implicated in this theory is a tall individual with a limp named Jack Anderson Wilson, who plays a part, although preferably in both stories. The murder remains a mystery to this day. 70 years from the fateful night, there is little chance that Georgette's death will ever be solved. Well, especially back then, Mary. I mean, it was something that you just didn't do, unfortunately, is when it was domestic abuse. Back then, you looked the other way, unfortunately. And it still happens today, unfortunately. Back then, I guess in a way it could get you killed. Do you know what I mean?
Well, now I'm wondering if a neighbor said they thought they heard, hi, Scoops,
Hey, Scoops.
a woman's heels leaving the apartment building. I wonder if it was a woman that killed her.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. But he just couldn't
Hi, Joanne.
hey, Joanne. He couldn't verify that there was it wasn't her.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It is sad. But again, like I said back then, think about it. If you were to tell on another man, that could get you killed. You know? It can, but more people are more apt to take the chance, not worrying about getting killed when calling on a domestic abuse. Or a guy dressed up as a woman. Yeah, good thinking, Sid. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, definitely a crazy story.
if it was a guy dressed as a woman, then he must have practiced walking in heels for a little bit. Because probably most men can't just throw on a set of friggin' heels and just take off.
Right. But it would be a good cover. Definitely. Yeah. Especially back then.
Sid is the undercover investigator in the room.
Me neither, Scoop. I can if they're platform, but high heels I can't. Yeah, exactly. Kudos to any man who can.
Well, I guess I ain't getting no friggin' kudos.
I don't know how women wear them all day. I really don't. Give me 1 second to pull this up. The last story we have.
Well, I appreciate that, Scoop.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do. I couldn't. Yeah.
That's true, especially they might have been wearing like cowboy boots.
Yeah, that would sound, yeah. Nicole sharing the love over there with SpongeBob. Sponge of the Bob. So the last story I have today is a giant mystery surrounds the true inventor of motion pictures and his rival, Edison. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry.
And now,
For the rest of the story.
There's your copyright right there.
Yep. See, Eddie did it this time. Eddie did it. So it was widely believed that the inventors of what we now know as the moving pictures and film were Thomas Edison and the Lumiere brothers. They won all the headlines for their distinguished. Thank you so much, Nicole, for the lemon.
Thank you, Nicole.
They won all the headlines for their ingenious discovery and entered history as the inventors of a tool that had dominated the entertainment world for over a century. However, that was a great show, Heather. Yeah. However, the beginnings of the film are not credited solely to these three figures. They certainly won the patent war, but there is even more to the story than inventiveness. There is also a tale of mysterious disappearance in which has never been solved, and many believe could have been foul play in the part of his famous competitor, Thomas Edison.
I don't know. I just find that a little far-fetched, but
Why?
Thomas Edison?
Yeah. Louis Amia Augustin Le Prince, the son of an officer from the Legion of Honor, established by Napoleon Bonaparte and was born in 1841. His father had many prominent friends, and among them was Louis Daguerre, inventor of the daguerreotype process of photography. The younger Le Prince was fascinated by the process and started to learn the basics of chemistry and photography from his father's friend. He fell in love with the process so hard that he continued to study painting and chemistry in Paris and Leipzig. Leipzig?
Where?
Paris and Leipzig.
Okay.
Upon finishing his studies, he was invited by John Whitley to move to England. Together with his wife, he established the Leeds Technical School of Arts, a school of applied arts where Le Prince furthered his specialization in tinting and photography. He later moved to the U.S. and took French-American dual citizenship in 1889. During the 1880s, Le Prince started to develop an interest in moving pictures, which led him to inventing a 16-lens camera in 1886. The patent describes as an integrated moving picture camera and projector. He continued to work on his invention and developed the Le Prince single-lens cine camera, considered one of the groundbreaking inventions in cinema history. In October of 1888, he filmed what's known as the first moving picture in history in Leeds, England. Here is the original 20 frames taken at Ronhay in the 1888 National Science Museum, London, 1931. That was the first. Oops. Let's close this. How cool is that?
It's pretty different.
That's wild. He captured 3 short films: Roundhay Garden Scene, Traffic Crossing at Leeds Bridge, and footage of his son playing the accordion. Even after his invention, using paperback stripped film may seem primitive in comparison to equipment used later on or today, it is no doubt that it was successful, which means that his invention predates the one Edison and the Lumiere brothers.
I thought the Gamble game was on, not on YouTube.
Gamble game? I don't know what the Gamble game
There
is.
were there betting points. Didn't you have the one-armed bandit? I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm so confused.
And Ron can still do plumbing.
So he's Mario, yeah. Mario! However, in September of 1890, the prince mysteriously disappeared without a trace. He was on his way to demonstrate his single-lens camera in the U.S., which would have been the first time his technology and films would be displayed to the general public, and would have been a serious blow to Edison's claim to the moving picture. Le Prince was also planning to patent the idea, which would have guaranteed him, not Edison, royalties in perpetuity for the new invention. However, in September 1890, Le Prince, I just read that. He was visiting his brother in Dijon. It looks like Dijon mustard, so I'm going to go with Dijon. and on September 16th boarded a train to Paris, where he was then planning to head across the Atlantic. However, he never made it to Paris. Le Prince, along with his luggage, were nowhere to be found. It was if he had vanished into thin air. He had been seen boarding the train, yet nobody claimed to have seen him in his compartments. There are few compelling theories as to what happened to Le Prince. First, it was that he ended his own life due to the impending bankruptcy. But why would he do that? He was going to get something.
Exactly.
His great nephews believed that this was the case, but the records from the time showed that his business was doing well.
So you're going to go off yourself?
I agree, Skook. The second is that he accidentally drowned. This idea could hold some credence. In 2003, researchers identified a photograph of a French drowned victim which dated back to 1890, around the same time of his disappearance. This is entirely plausible, but it didn't explain how his luggage disappeared as well. How nobody on the train reported seeing a man falling out of the train.
Hi, Tammy.
Hey, Pammy. The final theory is that no one other than Thomas Edison was behind his early end, a theory which made of the Le Prince's family members thought was entirely possible. According to the BBC, at the time, Edison was claiming that he was the sole inventor of the motion picture. Adolphe Le Prince, Louis's son, was contesting this in court. Had Le Prince completed his journey, he would have only been weeks away from filing a patent which would have destroyed Edison's case and claimed the motion picture and the subsequent royalties.
But could it be a setup to say that everything pointed toward Edison? To throw it on, to throw.
Why would it? Why?
I don't know, I'm asking.
No, I know. As it was Edison eventually won the case, though it was contested a year later. Another strange fact is that 2 years after this, Adolphe Le Prince himself met a very mysterious end. The 29-year-old was found fatally shot while duck hunting in New York. The case has also gone unsolved.
It's hard to solve a case when you got enough witnesses.
It is likely we'll never know what happened to Louis Le Prince, yet with time and recognition, he can truly be called the inventor of motion pictures. As the Science and Media Museum's blog states, in a cruel twist of fate, his disappearance meant that the world's first movie maker never got the chance to accept the plaudits that came with such an achievement during his lifetime. But he's since been posthumously awarded his rightful status as the father of cinematography. I mean, that's messed up, though.
Yeah.
Edison was a sneaky bastard. You know? He just was. He was with Tesla. He was with this guy, I believe. What do you think?
It's all fucking fucked up.
It is messed up, Nicole. It really is. Yeah, it was cutthroat. Did you know that the Germans had the first TV station in Berlin in the 1930s? I believe it. Yep, exactly, Skook. But that wasn't just Edison either. That was Westinghouse. It was Westinghouse's fault. That's true, Ron. We are our own worst enemies. Just a genius with greed. Yep, exactly. Easily distracted. And that's just it. You know, that's just it. Is, you know, that greed will get you. It'll get you. No, and any, you know what I mean? No matter what you're greedy about, it'll get you.
One way.
Uh-huh.
I said one way.
Or another. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a short show today, obviously.
That's okay. I'm ready for an hour.
I know. I can see this over there.
Hey, 9 hours overtime.
I know. Poor Eddie's been... That's Ahmed. Poor Eddie's been going and going and going. But tomorrow, we also got, we're finishing up the alien. We're going to start with reptilians again and go from there. The rest of the, that's right. Karma does always win out, Heather. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm flashing you again. Woo-woo! Am I doing it in a good way? Yeah, you know it. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Hey, Mike.
Am I still flashing?
It must be your camera doing it.
Dang camera.
Thanks,
Thank you, Ron, for the ice cream. Yeah, no shit, Patrick. The first TV transmission that went into space was from Hitler. Yeah, they're like, screw this. Ron with the little Grim Reaper guy. I love that guy. Love that little Grim Reaper guy. Nicole Moonin. But yeah, so we'll start out with the reptilians and go play out the rest of the list. Definitely a lot of stuff. I pulled up some more information while I was going through the show notes for this week.
Hi, Delta.
Hey, Delta. Hey, wait a minute. Aren't you supposed to be in school? Oh, it's 3. It's Danielle.
How many times she changed her name?
Apparently on YouTube too, because she's Delta. It is Danielle, right? If it isn't, I'm sorry for yelling at you for being not be. Oh, okay, see, it is Danielle. I'm done with school.
You know, it's somebody else that's just done with school.
Oh yeah, that's true. That could be. Yeah. You don't insult people when you do it, Ron. You're a mooner. That's what you're supposed to do. Are you really someone else? Don't mess with me now. See, this is why I gotta watch my kids, because they mess with me like this. My kids are smart asses like their mother. Sorry, guys. I went to go. Did you write me a thing on Facebook? Or, I mean, yeah, on Messenger. I can't see what that says. Danielle. So have we established she's active now? Okay. See, this is why I can't even trust my own children. 13 years old and still messing with me. Started already. I'm like, I know that name because that name's over. It was over in dlive. I did believe you. I got a little embarrassed at the beginning. I was like, is it her or not? I was talking about how Danielle is my birthday baby. What, we were talking about that on your stream? Yesterday? We were talking about that. She's my birthday gift. See? And you all know how Mr. Minkster is. I know, you probably will, Danielle. Because you guys like messing with your mother.
I'm gonna lay down.
Okay, baby.
Is that all right?
Well, yeah, of course. I'm going to be ending up here. Not ending up here.
You did end up there.
Yeah, I'm going to end up there. I'm going to be ending the show. I know. My second son was born the day after. Really easily distracted. That's cool. Danielle is my youngest. My youngest daughter, my youngest kid. She was born October 17th, October 17th. I was born October 18th. Then my oldest daughter, their father is born on November 29th. My oldest daughter was born November 30th. And then my son, who's the brother in the middle, he's the brother sandwich. He is the only left-hander and the only one with the birthday way out in June, not near anybody's. Don't they all? Yeah. The only time I can believe you guys or not believe you, I should say, is when you guys say, I'm sick, but you're not. And your eyes are the one what tell you or tell me that you're sick.
Wow. See,
My
Heather?
June 9th, me the 18th, and my dad June 29th. Oh, wow, Heather. Wow.
Bad for you.
Oh, snap. Yeah, that's how I'm lucky because my children are part Sicilian. So when they get sick, when they're younger, their eyes turn, not their eyeball, but around their eyes turn red or pink if they were sick. And as they got older, they turned dark, like the shadow around their eyes. So 27th and 28th, September 6th. Wow, that's wild. That's why I love that. It's so weird. Like their father and aunt, his sister, are 5 days apart. And she had her daughter the day after her birthday. So my oldest daughter and her cousin are 5 days apart as well. And then you got going to the other sister. Jenny and Kenny are born a day apart years later. But yeah, that's how like the starting of October. Because I don't think anybody's in August or September. Starting of October is when all the Christmas presents and birthday presents come out.
Scoots got pregnant on Christmas vacation some of the time. Okay, but some of the time she was pregnant.
Well, I was very honored. I felt very honored, Danielle, that you interviewed me for the school project. I'm very proud of that. I thank you for interviewing me. And I liked the little ending where you said, haha, daddy's older. But I can't, you're going to have to take a closer picture up of what you sent me on Messenger because I can't see it. All right, guys.
You don't have to end.
I know. I'm heading over to dlive. Make sure you do too, because I'm going to give away the lemons. Poor Eddie's over here passing out.
No, I'm just falling asleep.
'Twas the season for me. Oh, did she? Oh, that's cool. I'm glad she liked my response. Thank you all for coming in. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I haven't had a day off in a week.
Yeah, last night was overtime, which is nice, but you know.
I'm getting too old to work like that.
Yeah, he's working himself to death. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Heather.
Heather.
Take it easy, Brett.
Thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate it so much. You guys mean the world to us. You really do. Doodles, poodles. I love that.
Oh, bless you too, Nicole.
Definitely. All right, I'm distributing the rewards, the lemons. Make sure you hit that button. Thank you, Sid, for the ice cream. 25 seconds left. Press on that chest if it didn't pop out for you.
Answer your daughter.
All right, Danielle. I love you, Bug.
Wait a minute. Switch buses.
She must be on her way home.
She don't take school bus?
Yeah, but she might have to switch buses. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
I've never had to switch school buses.
All right, we got Patrick with 78.1 lemons. Nicole got 45.3. Ron got 33.3. Heather got 26.4. And Joanne got 22.2. Yay!
Take it easy, Brett.
Bye, my Canadian friend.
Oh,
great,
thanks,
Patrick. That's great. I love when people say that, because I always, you don't know what people's gonna like, what they don't. I have you too. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. Like I said, tomorrow we do the list of aliens, finish that up, and then I got some other stories.
That's weird. I never had to switch school buses.
Did she say she?
Yeah, she said she's got 2 buses to get home.
Well, be safe, honey, and I love you, and hit me up when you get home. I might be sleeping, but you know how that works. All right, guys. Yes, we have a lot of Canadian friends. Brett's just apparently to Brett, everybody's Canadian.
The whole damn world.
That's right. The whole damn world is Canadian, even Canadian down under. I love that one. That's my favorite one.
Night, Misty Cat.
Night, Misty Cat. Thank you for coming in, hon. Take care, everyone. Be safe. And remember, are you going to do your fist bump with my hugs?
No, I already said goodbye.
Oh, okay.
I'm tired.
I know you are. All right, guys. Love you all. Thank you so much for coming in. See you tomorrow. And remember, find something today that makes you smile with your eyes. Love you guys.